Hey everyone, this is Emerald. I'm on Instagram at EmeraldChan, and today I'm here at the Food52 test kitchen for a recipe drop, and I'm going to show you how to make these Biang Biang noodles. These are hand-pulled noodles that we're going to top with a spicy chili oil. It's going to be super delicious, and I'm excited to show you how to do it. All right, so let's just jump in and start with our dough. We have 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, that's 300 grams. We're going to salt it. This just helps with flavor and texture. And what I like to do is take a pair of chopsticks. You can also go in with your hands, but I'm going chopstick route. And then we're going to drizzle some water over top. And we're going to mix with our chopsticks, kind of like we're our own personal stand mixer here. And we just want to see that flour get nice and saturated. So water goes in, and I'm just going to continue to mix with my chopsticks here. And once we see our flour kind of start to clump together like this, I'm going to transfer over to using my hands. So we're going to gather our dough with our hands and just start to knead it together. I want to just make sure there aren't any super dry spots or super wet spots in this dough, and we're going to know that it's kind of ready when our dough starts to pull away from the walls of our bowl. We want to work our dough until there are no dry spots and no wet spots that are super obvious, and once we kind of have a shaggy ball like this, we're going to turn it onto our clean work surface and start to knead it together. You can definitely use a stand mixer for this. I probably should have. I took my first Pilates class yesterday and my arms are burning. But I also want to show you that you can do this at home without any fancy equipment, and it's super easy to put together. We're going to knead our dough for about 5 minutes until this shaggy mess comes together, and I promise it will. It might feel a little bit dry at first and like it's not coming together, but use those muscles and it'll happen. And also, if this is your first time making noodles, this is a really easy recipe to try it out with because it's just 3 ingredients and all you need is a little bit of time and patience, which sometimes I know I can be lacking, but it's definitely worth it with this dish. Before anybody says anything, I cook with my rings on, I knead with my rings on, I'm cooking for myself, and I wash my hands before and after, so everything is fine, I promise. It's been about 4 or 5 minutes since we started kneading our dough, and at this point you can see it's not completely uniform yet. There are some cracks, but it's mostly come together. But at this point, we've worked her. We want to let her rest before we continue. So what I'm going to do is grab a wet tea towel, or you can also use some plastic wrap to cover it up, and we're going to let it rest for about 10 minutes. All right, let's check our little dough baby. Okay, she's looking good. We could tell she's ready to keep working with because it's starting to look a little more supple. When we press on it, it starts to bounce back. So muscles kicking back in. We're going to work this for another 6 to 8 minutes. We're working to get a really smooth, elastic looking ball. As we knead this, we're going to build up that gluten that gives us that really chewy, delicious noodle structure. I love these noodles. They're flat, they're wide, they are really good at holding a lot of sauce. I know this is one of our first times meeting, so you're going to get to know I'm a pretty saucy girl, and that's very important to me. We're going to have a really delicious chili oil that we're going to make right on top of our noodles once these are done. All right, I'm going to keep working on this. We'll see you in like 5 minutes. I'm a little sweaty, but we're done, and it was well worth it because now we have a beautiful, very smooth, elastic dough ball, and we're going to make our sections. We're going to cut our ball into 8. You can use a knife, bench scraper, whatever you have. Perfect. We want these to be relatively even, but don't stress, they don't have to be totally perfect. And we're going to take each section now and just roll it into little sausages. No need to be super precise with this part because we are going to roll it out and work our dough a little bit later. But I will say this next part for me is the hardest because we have to let our dough rest for about 3 hours. If you're going to eat this today, you can also make all of this, put this in the fridge overnight, and leave it for at least 3 days. So then you'll always have fresh nudes on hand. But I want these today, so we're going to wait. And what we're going to do is coat each one with a little bit of oil just to seal that moisture in before we let these guys rest for 3 hours. We're just using a neutral oil. This one is veg. And it also helps for when we stretch it out. It kind of lubes it up. There's no better way of saying it. I don't know. I'm going to wrap these up with some saran wrap, and then we're just going to let it sit at room temperature, and we'll be right back. We're gonna mix together our sauce and our aromatics here. So starting off, we have some spices. I have some ground up red chili flakes. I like to grind them up just to bring out the flavor a bit. And then we're gonna add some gochugaru, which is a Korean red pepper flake. This one's not super spicy, but it has some really good aromatics in there. And then we're gonna add in some cumin. Let me give that a quick little stir. And then we have our sauces. So starting off, we have some black vinegar and then some soy sauce. I'm gonna add in a little bit of sesame oil and then sugar for sweetness, just to balance everything out. One of my favorite parts of this dish is that it has that saltiness, but also we have that acid from the vinegar and then the sweetness to just help kind of make everything really come together. Perfect. So we stir this just until that sugar dissolves. And that's our sauce done. And then we're gonna assemble everything once those noodles are cooked. We have some slightly prettier noodles that I spent a little longer working on earlier, so we don't have to wait 3 hours. And we're gonna make our Biang Biang noodles. Our dough has rested for 3 hours, and we know that it's ready when we give it a little bit of a stretch and it doesn't rip. So we're gonna take this, and what we wanna do is roll out each one of our logs, worms, sausages, whatever you wanna call it, and make it flat. We're gonna go about 2 inches, 2.5 inches wide here. And then we're gonna take a chopstick to make an indent right across the center of our noodle, and this is gonna help guide our noodle into the right direction. Okay, it's time for the fun part, and also kind of what seems like could be the most intimidating part, but I promise it's really not. So we wanna stretch our dough to make it nice and long, and we're gonna grab the ends. You don't wanna grab it too hard or too soft. We just kind of wanna move our wrists up and down until the dough slaps the work surface. And by doing that, it's gonna stretch. So I think I should just show you, because it's a little hard to describe. So you can see it ripped a little bit, which is okay, but that just tells me that I was holding one of the ends a little bit too tight. But you can just kind of reach right in front of it and keep slapping your noodles and it'll be just fine. This is the part where that indentation comes in. What we're gonna do is take our fingers and just pull right where that is. And we don't need to rip it all the way through. We have a nice long noodle circle that's like damn near as tall as I am.
That's so cool.
They're so fun to make, right? Do you wanna try it? Okay, come. Here, I'll go sideways and you go forward. Okay, so what you wanna do is it's kind of like all in the wrists, like basketball. Is that what? I don't know. I don't know why I'm making a sports reference. I know nothing about sports.
No, I love it.
Okay, so we're just gonna move our wrists, slap it onto the counter, and then continue to, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is fun.
I know. Oh.
And how do you know when to
So
stop?
we want it to be like about 3 feet-ish.
Okay.
So I think we're looking
It's kind of like a jump rope.
pretty good. And then we are gonna take our fingers in the middle of that indentation, rip it, and this is kind of the most satisfying part to me.
Whoa.
Yeah, right? And if you like a thicker noodle, you could always roll them out a little bit more. I kind of like them like a little thicker than like fettuccine kind of.
I like that you don't rip them. And
Yeah,
then you just get like a
they're really
long
nice and
noodle.
long. We'll keep going. And this is where the Biang Biang name comes from, that slapping sound. We're gonna drop our noodles right into our boiling water here. And they don't need to cook for very long, maybe 1 to 2 minutes. You're just looking for your noodles to float to the surface, and then they are ready. Just wanna break it up a little bit with my chopsticks so they don't fully stick to each other. Ooh, they're looking good. I'm very excited to eat these. It's almost lunchtime, so this is perfect. Once these are almost done cooking, you can see that they kind of expand a little bit, so they get nice and plump, and they're gonna have that really good mouth feel and be like super bouncy, chewy noodles. These are looking great, so I'm gonna separate them out into my bowls. Ooh. The only issue with these is they're very long and they're a bit hard to take out, but you can pop them right into your bowl. I love making this with friends and family that come over too, because it's a really interactive process. So if you make a big batch of dough and have it ready for when everybody comes over, it becomes a really fun activity. Now we are almost done. This last part comes together in no time. So we have some garlic that we're gonna throw right on top of our noodles. I'm gonna split these right in half. Add some ginger. And we're leaving these raw, and you'll see why in a minute. A handful of scallions in each one, just like that. We have our vinegar, soy, sesame oil, and sugar mixture. I'm gonna spoon a few spoonfuls, kind of right around our noodles here. Perfect, and we can always add more if we want a little bit of stronger flavor later. And then we are gonna take our dry spice mixture, and that's gonna go right on top. We're gonna make a nice little mountain right on top of those aromatics. And then finally, I'm gonna add some sesame seeds, kind of right around the sides. It's already beautiful as is, but we need our showstopper, which is our hot oil. So we're going to heat up a little bit of a neutral oil. I'm just using veg oil, but you can use anything that you like. We're just gonna wait for this to shimmer, and then we know it's ready. We're gonna pour our hot oil over our spices. Do half here and half in our next one. We wanna give these a little mix. And pouring that hot oil over those spices and those aromatics just really kind of help them bloom, and they become really tasty. It smells amazing. You can really smell that cumin come out. If you wanted to add some veg, you could always blanch some as you're doing your noodles, or you can always add in some meat. There's a restaurant that I really like that serves this with sliced lamb on top. You could also do minced pork or beef, would be really good too. But before we finish, I'm gonna top it off with some scallions that they slice really thinly. I like to throw them in water because they get nice and curly. Put that right on top. And then I like a bunch of cilantro on mine. And that is it. Those are our noodles.
Wow.
All right, so we have our nice, thick, bouncy, chewy noodles.
Oh, I love the little scallions on top.
Mmm. Yum.
Mmm, so
You like it?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, this is a spicy
Good.
batch. These are good though.
Restaurant quality.
Thank you. Well,
It's really good.
this was your hard work too, so.
Oh.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want this recipe, it's linked down below. If you want to see more of me, also linked down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all those good things. Bye.